called the blanket story. Now this story is for our elders, mainly for them. Because in a traditional Cherokee home, probably in a traditional native home, no matter where it is, any part of the country, you will find little boys and little girls, you'll find moms and dads, but you'll also find grandma and grandpa. And if you're really lucky, you'll find great-grandma and great-grandpa. Because we did not invent this thing of retirement homes or senior centers where some people tend to stick to grandma and grandpa and then get them off. We do not do that. Or we're not supposed to. And this story tells us why. Now a long time ago there was this young man. He was maybe 8, 9 years old. And we call him a young man because in this story he had endured great hardship. He lost his father to the Great War. And he lost his mother to sickness. And so this young man was all by himself. So he tried to do the best that he could to survive and to get by. So what he would do was he would go to the houses of the elders. And he would help them take care of things that they had a hard time doing themselves. He would chop the wood, carry the wood for them. He would go and collect water, bring it to their house. If they had livestock, he would go and check the fences, make sure everything was okay. If there was a leak in the roof, he would crawl up there. He would fix that roof. And in return, these elders, they would give him a nice hot meal. They gave him a warm, safe place to sleep at night. They would mend his clothes or make him new clothes. And they would tell him stories that they were told when they were young. And they taught this young man how to hunt, how to fish. Taught him which plants to use for medicine, which plants to use for food. And taught him of respect for all things and all people. But as time went on, that boy grew into a man. And he decided that he wanted a family of his own because he had been alone for most of his life. And this family that he wanted a big family. He wanted to have a beautiful wife and many children. So he went back up into the mountains and he built himself a great big house. And after he built this house, he went to the next village and he found himself a beautiful wife. And they were very happy together. They lived in this great big house and they were planning for a big family. So when they found out they were going to be parents, this filled that young man with a love and a joy and a happiness he had never known before. He was proud. He was happy. Well, you know, sadly, when the baby came, his wife, she made her journey to the next world. This young man was devastated once again. He had lost his parents at a young age, and now he lost his best friend. He lost his companion. He lost his wife. But he had his son. He loved his son. He spent every moment of every day with his son. He taught him how to walk. He taught him how to talk. He taught his son how to hunt, how to fish. He taught his son which plants to use for medicine, which plants to use for food. He told his son all of those stories that he was told when he was a boy. And he taught his son of respect for all things and all people. And as time went on, his son grew into a man. And his son was confident now that he could take care of a family and he would like to have a family of his own. So he asked his father for a good blessing. And so his father prayed for him the best way that he could. And so that young man went to the next village and he found himself a beautiful wife. And now the father had this big house. It was large enough that they could have their family in there as well. So rather than that young man making a big house of his own, they lived with him. They lived with his father. And this worked out perfect because his young wife, she would take care of the things around the house, and that young man, he would hunt, he would fish, he would make sure everyone was safe, they all had enough to eat. And Grandpa got a little free time. And when that young couple had a child of their own, it was another little boy, Grandpa got to spend all his time with his grandson. And he loved his grandson. He taught his grandson how to walk. He taught him how to talk. He was teaching his grandson how to hunt, how to fish, teaching him which plants to use for medicine, which plants to use for food. He was telling his grandson all of those stories that he was told when he was a boy. And he was teaching his grandson of respect for all things, all people. And you know, as time goes on, all of us as human beings, all of us as two-legged, we will start to lose certain abilities. Grandpa's hands will no longer let him hold his bow and arrow the way that he used to. Grandpa's legs would no longer let him run and jump the way he used to. And certain abilities started to slip from his grasp. So the responsibility to help Grandpa fell upon his daughter-in-law, because she was the one closest to the house. She took care of these responsibilities for a time. But one day this burden became too heavy for her. So she called her husband to the back of the house and she told him, "I married you. I did not marry your father. I wish to take care of you and our son, but I no longer wish to take care of your father. You must tell your father to leave." This caught this man by surprise. He didn't quite know what to say, so what he told her was, I can't do that to my father. This is my father's home. My father has taught me how to take care of myself. More importantly, he's taught me how to take care of you. I cannot make my father leave his own house. So she told her husband, "Okay, but if you do not, I will take our son. We will leave. You will never see us again." So this weighed heavy on that man's heart. He began to think about these things. I love my father. I love my son. My father has taught me everything that I know. And I have so much to teach my son. I have spent my entire lifetime with my father. And I have a long way to go with my son. I love my father, but I love my son. My father loves me. So when that young man went to his wife, he says, "Okay, my father must leave, but I cannot tell him. You will have to tell him." The funny thing was, she couldn't tell him either. So she called her son to the back of the house. She said, "Son, I want you to take this blanket. Grab your grandpa by the hand and walk him as far south as you can go. And when you get there, leave your grandpa there. Give him this blanket. And you come on home. Don't worry about your field without getting cut up, without getting hurt too bad. And they were trying to hurry as fast as they could go. And as they were making their way through this field of grass, one of those warriors had fallen behind. So those other three would wait for him to catch up, and they told him, "Come on, hurry. We got to get home before it gets dark." Now the reason for that is because all Native peoples know that during the day, that's when good things and good people are out. But during the nighttime, that's when the bad things come. That's when bad people come. So they were trying to get home before it got dark. And so they were going as fast as they could. But that one young warrior that kept falling behind, he told his friends, he says, "Can't you guys hear that?" He said, "Hear what?" "Shh, listen." So they all stopped and they all tilted their heads and they were listening. Way off in the distance, they could hear the sound of a baby crying. And this kind of freaked them out because they knew it was almost dark time. They said, "We better go. If there's a baby out there, its parents must be close by. Let's just go and not worry about this. Let's get home." That one young warrior, he says, "How can I call myself a man if I do not go and check on this baby? Maybe this baby's in trouble. Maybe his parents are lost. Maybe he's all by himself or herself. I have to go and see." But his friends were like, "Well, what if it's not a baby? What if it's a bad spirit? What if it is a mountain lion? What if it's something bad just trying to lure you out there? It could eat you. Please, brother, don't go out there. Let's just go home." But that warrior, he says, "No, I cannot. I have to go and see. I couldn't live with myself if I didn't go and check." He asked his friends, he said, "I don't ask you to come with me, but will you wait right here for me? If I don't return, you guys go on home." So those warriors said, "Okay, my brother, my friend, we'll stand here. We'll wait for you." That warrior disappeared in that tall grass. And those three warriors were standing there listening. And they could hear that baby crying for a little while. But after a few minutes, that baby crying stopped. So they stood there. They waited. And what they could hear was, it sounded like it kept getting louder and louder. So they got nervous, a little scared. So they took their arrows out, put it in their bows. One of those warriors grabbed his war club, and they were ready for whatever it was coming through that grass at them. But it was their friend. And he was carrying a little baby. And those warriors were like, "Oh man, you scared us. But you did a good thing. You done a great deed. You faced your fear. You went out there and you saved this baby. When we get back to the village, we're going to tell everybody about how brave you were, how you helped this child." So when they got back to the village, his friends, they took off and they started telling people. But that young man was carrying that little baby, that little child, and he was thinking to himself, "I'm not a father. I don't know how to take care of a baby. I can barely take care of myself. How am I going to take care of this baby?" So what he decided to do is he would take this baby to the elders. They've seen a lot of things and done a lot of things, and they would probably know what to do, what would be best for this baby. So he took this sleeping baby over to these elders and asked them what to do, and they talked about it for a little bit, and they decided upon that there was this young lady in the village. This young lady really loved children. She helped all the other young mothers with their children. But this young lady could not have children of her own. So they said she would make a good mother. We'll give this baby to her. And so they did. And this young lady, she was happy. She was excited. Finally, she is a mother. She held her sleeping baby in her arms. And her parents, they were happy and they were excited and they were proud. So they lit a big fire and they started cooking, and they told everybody in the village, come and eat, feast with us, and meet our newest addition to our family. Everyone's welcome, come on. And so everybody in the village came. They all ate very well. They all sang, danced, told stories. Those warriors that brought that baby told everybody about how brave their friend was. And everyone was coming by, taking a look at that baby, you know, pinching its cheeks, playing with its little feet and its little hands. But nobody noticed that that baby slept through everything. So after the fire had burned low, after everyone returned to their lodges, that young mother, she lived with her mom and dad. So her mom helped her make a little spot for that baby to sleep. They put the baby down. The mother and father went to bed. But that young mother, she couldn't sleep because she was so happy. She was finally a mom. So she sat up and started making shoes for her little baby. And as she was making these shoes, she got the first one done. And after she finished that first one, she heard screams, terrible screams. Screams, grandmas, grandpas. Screams of moms and dads. Screams of little boys, little girls. This made her afraid. She jumped up, went to her mother and father's bed, and she said, Father, wake up! There's something wrong with our people. I hear them screaming. They need your help, Father. Go help them, go help them. And he jumped up out of bed. He ran and grabbed his war club, his shield, his bow and arrows, and he ran outside to face whatever it was. But when he got outside, he looked around. He noticed everyone was asleep in their lodges. So he came back in the house. He said, Daughter, do not worry. You are safe. It must have been a bad dream. But Father, I was awake. I know what I heard. Daughter, it must have been your imagination. Everyone is asleep in their lodges. You are okay. I'm going back to bed. And so her father, he went and put his things away. He went back to bed, right back to sleep. That young lady, she knew what she heard. But she was comforted a little bit by her father's words, because he did go outside, he did check, made sure they were safe, that they were okay. So she sat back down and began to make the second shoe for her child. She almost finished that second shoe whenever she heard those same screams again. But this time, instead of waking her father, she woke up her mother. She said, Mom, I keep hearing these terrible screams. Will you get up and will you pray with me? It must be some evil spirit trying to come in and harm our family, maybe trying to harm my baby. Please, Mom, pray with me. So her mother, she got up. She took her tobacco and her sage, her sweetgrass and cedar. She made that powerful smoke. She said those good prayers of protection to protect her family. And she went all around her lodge, all around her house, saying these prayers for peace and for happiness. When she got where the little baby was laying, she started whispering her prayers as to not wake the baby. As she was standing, this is not a baby. This is Eeyah, the village eater. We must be quiet. We must leave Eeyah laying there where he's laying. We have to get our friends and our family, and we have to leave as fast as we can before Eeyah wakes up. So they left Eeyah laying there. They went and gathered all their friends and their families, and they left for their winter camp. And now as they were leaving in a hurry, those 4 warriors that had brought that baby into the village, they were walking behind everybody to make sure everybody got away safely. And that one young warrior that had went and got that baby, he began to think, this is all my fault. If I had listened to my friends and just came home, none of this would have happened. We would not have to move. We would not have to leave this good place. I've put my friends and my family in danger. I have to make this right. So he decided that he would stay there. And if Eeyah woke up before his family got away, he would do battle with Eeyah and give his family enough time to escape. So he stayed there. And he watched as his friends and family disappeared into the horizon. And he stood there and he watched the lodge over here in this direction. And as he watched that lodge, Eeyah began to wake up. And as Eeyah was waking up, he started looking around. And he noticed that he was in a big, fine lodge. Now, if this is a nice house, there must be people that live in here. And if there's people and this lodge is really fine, there must be other lodges outside. Lots of people to eat. Now see, Eeyah, when he hides, he can make himself look pretty. He can hide himself in just about anything. But his true form, he is a gigantic beast. A big monster with huge arms, a great big mouth with little bitty legs. So he has to use his arms to get around. So as Eeyah was turning into his real self, he reached up and started grabbing the poles of that lodge, pulling himself up. And those poles snapped under his great weight, sending him crashing to the ground. And when he hit the ground, the earth shook. And that young man could feel the earth shaking, and he saw that lodge crumble. And he watched as Eeyah crawled out from under that broken lodge. Now when Eeyah crawled out from under that lodge, he looked around and saw there were no other lodges there. This made him angry. He said, "Rah!" And he began to look around. And he found the footprints of the people. So he began to pull himself in that direction of where the people had gone. And as he was making his way in that direction, he saw that young warrior standing there by himself. And Eeyah was hungry. So he opened up his great big mouth. He started sucking things in. Trees fell, went into his mouth. Birds could not get away. He sucked birds in right out of the sky. And that young man could feel that wind pulling him, pulling hard. So he took his spear, he drove it into the ground. He held on for dear life. And Eeyah kept getting closer and closer. He got so close that that young man could smell the stench of Eeyah's breath. And he was so close that that young man knew if he didn't do nothing quick, he would die. So that young man pulled his spear up out of the ground and he ran as fast as he could towards Eeyah. But instead of going into Eeyah's mouth, at the last second he dove underneath Eeyah's head. He stood up underneath Eeyah and he cut open Eeyah's belly. And a bunch of people fell out. Those were the ones that were screaming. But now he took those people to their winter camp. And his friends and family helped those people get back on their feet. And they went back to wherever it was they came from. The boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen. When that young man killed Eeyah, one of Eeyah's brothers had awoken in a cave far north from here. And he has made his way south. If you don't believe me, all you have to do is turn on the news and you see these villages that were in Georgia, Alabama, Mississippi. Those villages are gone. So you have to be careful what you take into your home. Be careful what you take into your life. One of your friends might say, here, try this. Smoke it, it'll make you feel really good. Drink this. You'll forget about all your troubles, all your problems. Like I told you, Eeyah can hide in anything. And if you take Eeyah into your life, when he wakes up, he will eat you alive. Eeyah, the village